Welcome to this explainer. You know that feeling when your brain is just running 100 miles a minute? Yeah, we've all been there. Well, today we are unpacking a 2,000-year-old framework that essentially serves as the ultimate operating system for your mind. We're diving into the profound, kind of mysterious insights of an ancient sage named Patanjali. So if you're looking for true mental freedom, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, let's just dive right in. Think about where your stress actually comes from. We almost always blame our jobs, right? Or our finances, or our relationships. It's so easy to think, oh man, if I just get that promotion, or if I finally meet the perfect partner, I'll finally be at peace. But what if the real problem isn't actually out there in the world at all? What if the primary source of all that stress is literally sitting right between your ears? It is such a universal trap, isn't it? We're constantly trying to upgrade our external lives. You buy the new car and a week later that new car smell fades and the excitement just disappears. You get the big promotion and a month later you're stressed all over again. Why does that happen? Well, it's because our internal mind, which, let's be honest, often behaves like a hyperactive monkey that just drank 10 cups of espresso and discovered social media, it just keeps bringing the anxiety right back. The monkey jumps around, it constantly compares, it worries, it regrets. We spend all this time upgrading our tech and our lives, but we completely forget to upgrade our minds.
So how do we solve this? Well, Patanjali summarized his entire philosophy in this one, honestly revolutionary statement. He said, "Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind." And I really want you to notice what he didn't say here. He didn't say it's about controlling the world around you. He didn't say it's about becoming rich or, being perfectly productive all the time. It is strictly about learning how to just quiet that endless, exhausting noise inside your head. Because here's the thing, Patanjali didn't design yoga as some sort of stretching routine for fancy Instagram photos. Not at all. He actually created it as history's very first psychological toolkit to quiet the internal noise. Think of him as an early pioneer of neuroscience, an expert on human consciousness who was pulling all this off entirely without MRI machines or modern labs. For him, yoga was about absolute freedom. Freedom from suffering and from being totally controlled by your own unconscious, automatic thought patterns. And his framework identifies 5 root sources of human suffering. What's wild is how perfectly this maps onto our modern insecurities. First up is ignorance, which today looks a lot like chasing money to fix an internal sense of emptiness. Then we have ego, where we basically tie our entire self-worth to our social image. Beyond that is attachment, which is our very modern craving for followers and constant online validation. Fourth is aversion. And this shows up whenever we run away from difficult conversations or just uncertainty in general. And finally, there's fear, specifically that paralyzing fear of failure, loss, or rejection. It's crazy to think about, but 2,000 years later, the human operating system is still suffering from the exact same bugs.
But here's where this all gets incredibly urgent for us today. Patanjali was warning us about an uncontrolled mind back in a very quiet, ancient world. Now add in our modern smartphones, which are basically little distraction machines sitting in our pockets. You've got the notifications, the infinite scrolling, the constant dopamine overload. This ancient problem has just been completely amplified by modern attention fragmentation. Our attention is constantly being bought and sold. Our focus is shattered every few minutes, and our minds literally almost never experience true silence. The end result? Total mental fatigue. So to really understand the mechanism of Patanjali's solution, let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a story about a wealthy, powerful, but absolutely miserable king who goes demanding answers from a wise sage. The king complains, "Look, I have immense wealth, power, success, yet I am just deeply unhappy." And he's standing there looking for this complex, grand solution. He fully expects the sage to give him some incredibly difficult, monumental task to finally conquer his mental unrest. But instead of giving the king a complex task, the sage simply hands him a glass of muddy water. He gives him absolutely no instructions, just one simple word: wait. So the king sits there. Time passes. And as he just waits, the dirt naturally, completely effortlessly, begins to settle to the bottom of the glass.
Soon, the water becomes crystal clear. When the sage finally asks the king if he cleared the water, the king says, "No, it just settled naturally." And the lesson here is so profound. You cannot force peace, and you definitely can't fight your thoughts. Suppressing your feelings or actively battling your mind, that's literally like vigorously shaking that glass of muddy water and demanding that it turn clear. It just doesn't work that way. Clarity only emerges when that mental turbulence is allowed to naturally settle. In short, clarity comes from stillness, not from struggle. Now, what is truly fascinating about this is that modern neuroscience completely backs it all up. Like, we now have hard data proving that a quieter mind physically improves your attention, it reduces those automatic stress responses, and it actually strengthens the brain regions associated with self-awareness. But maybe most importantly, it physically dials down those overactive rumination networks in your brain. So you literally have ancient wisdom and modern science officially shaking hands right here. Okay, let's dive into the actual practical solution. Patanjali gave us the famous eightfold path. Honestly, I like to think of these as software upgrades for your brain. The first phase really focuses on the physical stuff. First up is ethical living. This is basically aligning your actions with your values, which instantly drops your internal conflict. Second is self-discipline, keeping those small, daily promises to yourself to build confidence. Third, care for the body, so treating physical movement as maintenance rather than some kind of punishment. And fourth, this one's a total game changer, breath mastery. It's realizing that your breath is quite literally the remote control for your brain's nervous system. Fast breath activates stress, slow breath activates calm. It's that simple. Once that physical foundation is locked in, we move on to the purely mental upgrades. Number 5 is withdrawing from distractions, meaning creating intentional, completely screen-free silence so you can actually, hear yourself think. 6 is focus. This is about training your attention just like a muscle, because where your attention goes, your life is going to follow. 7 is meditation. Simply learning to observe your thoughts like they're passing clouds, without chasing them down or fighting them. And finally, number 8, self-transcendence, which is that profound realization that your true awareness is so much larger than whatever temporary thoughts are passing through your head. Now, to make all of this incredibly practical for your everyday life, we've distilled his teachings down into the Patanjali framework. Think of it as a daily checklist for your mind. So P, pause your automatic reactions. A, bring awareness to your thoughts objectively. T, train your attention on just one thing at a time. A, accept reality instead of fighting it. From there, N, nurture discipline through small daily actions. J, join your conscious breath with your mind. A, align with your core values. L, let go of attachment and fear. And finally, I, cultivate inner stillness daily. I promise you, if you consistently practice this framework, your life is going to radically transform from the inside out. Patanjali taught us something really powerful, that the greatest prison has no walls, and the absolute greatest freedom cannot be purchased. So I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to chew on. What is the biggest challenge your mind is creating for you right now? Like, is it the infinite scrolling? Is it a paralyzing fear of failure? Or maybe constant comparison to others on social media? Identifying that specific bug in your mental software is absolutely the very first step to fixing it. Remember, the world around us. It's always going to be noisy. Challenges and uncertainty are pretty much a guarantee. But true mental freedom isn't just found by accident on a nice afternoon. It's a deliberate daily practice. A peaceful mind is not found, it is trained. And when that mind finally becomes still, clarity emerges and wisdom follows. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Your journey to mastering the space between your ears, it begins today.